Chapter 1, Collision Course. Neon lights shimmered across glass towers, bleeding color into the night sky like spilled paint. The city hummed with life, a living circuit board of traffic and murmured voices pulsing with a quiet urgency. Ryker Voss pushed through the revolving doors of Central Command, his boots pounding the polished floors. His broad frame strained the seams of his black tactical jacket, and a day's stubble shadowed his jaw. His dark hair was damp from the drizzle outside, stubborn strands plastered against his temples. He ignored the startled glances from junior officers as he stomped down the corridor. People always stared. Ryker was used to it. Sentinels were rare, and those with Ryker's reputation were rarer still. Voss, someone barked as he approached the briefing room. "You're late." "Not my fault, the council can't fix traffic," Ryker shot back without breaking stride. He shoved the door open and stepped inside. Instantly, his gaze locked onto a man standing at the front of the room. Tall, lean, clad in a sharply tailored uniform that hugged his slender form. Silver eyes glimmered under the harsh lights, cool and assessing, set in a finely boned face that looked sculpted out of marble. Aiden Cross. Of course it would be him. Aiden's arms were folded over his chest, a slim data tablet tucked against his side. His hair, silken black, almost blue under the fluorescence, fell across his forehead in perfect disarray. The guide's lips curled in a faint sneer. "Good of you to join us, Voss." "Late as usual." Ryker's jaw tightened. He crossed the room in 3 long strides until he stood toe-to-toe with Aiden. The difference in height made Aiden tilt his chin upward to maintain eye contact. Neither man gave an inch. "Watch it, Cross," Ryker growled. "Keep running your mouth and your perfect hair might end up messy." Aiden gave a soft, disdainful laugh. "Is that supposed to be a threat? Or just your usual attempts at flirting?" A ripple of laughter and hushed murmurs passed through the assembled officers. Ryker's fists curled at his sides. "Careful. My patience has limits." "Oh, I'm well aware," Aiden said, voice silky. "It's one of your many shortcomings, along with your utter inability to follow protocol or think before you act." "I act when there's danger," Ryker shot back. "Unlike some people who'd rather hide behind fancy psychic charts and status reports." Aiden's eyes flashed silver. "Those charts save lives, you oversized guard dog." Ryker leaned in so close, their noses almost touched. "Maybe, but so does a right hook." At the conference table, Captain Leong buried his face in his hands. "I would pay good money for one meeting that doesn't end in bloodshed." Ryker and Aiden kept glaring. Finally, Aiden turned away with a flick of his hair. "As I was saying before the interruption, there's been an uptick in psychic anomalies downtown. We're investigating whether they're linked to the Lucian cell." Ryker folded his arms, muscles shifting under his jacket. "You've been working this case for months and have squat to show for it." Aiden's eyes narrowed. "I'd have results if certain sentinels didn't keep blundering into my operations like charging bulls." "Blundering," Ryker snarled. "Last time I checked, I saved your hide when that rogue nearly fried your brain." Aiden's face flushed pink. "I didn't need saving." Ryker smirked. "Sure, keep telling yourself that." The tension vibrated in the room, sharp enough to cut. Leong slammed a folder on the table. "Enough. You two will work together on this. End of discussion." Aiden looked stricken. Ryker rolled his eyes. Aiden crossed his arms tighter. "Captain, with respect, this is a terrible idea." "Cry me a river," Ryker said under his breath. Leong glared at them both. "Consider this your final warning. You're partners for this case whether you like it or not." "Dismissed." Aiden spun on his heel and stalked toward the exit. Ryker followed, unable to resist one last jab. "See you bright and early, partner," he drawled. Aiden shot him a murderous look. "Don't call me that." Ryker grinned as he watched Aiden disappear down the hall, his perfect hair swishing like a challenge. Trouble, Ryker thought. Pure, beautiful trouble. And somehow he couldn't wait for tomorrow. Chapter 2, The Unwanted Bond. The warehouse reeked of rust, oil, and damp concrete. Shadows danced along the high walls as broken light fixtures flickered overhead. Aiden Cross stepped cautiously through the corridor, his long coat swaying with every silent step. Psychic static buzzed in his mind like a swarm of angry bees, growing louder the farther he moved in. Something wasn't right. He reached out with his senses only to recoil. A void. The scouting team had vanished from the grid 20 minutes ago, and Aiden, with his impeccable psychic calibration and unwillingness to wait for backup, had come in alone to investigate. Typical. He never did like relying on others. Especially not on him. A rustle behind a metal beam. Aiden barely turned before 3 figures lunged at him from the shadows, faces obscured, movements fast. The first man swung a baton. Aiden ducked, sending out a pulse of psychic force that knocked him back. But the second attacker caught his side and he stumbled. Pain bloomed across his ribs. He hissed through his teeth, then raised a glowing hand, preparing to strike. Then everything blurred. A crash, a roar. And suddenly Aiden was yanked backward by the collar and flung behind a wall of muscle. Miss me. Ryker Voss stood in front of him, all power and motion, fists flying. He moved like fire, unleashed, feral, focused, unstoppable. The third attacker came at him from behind, but Ryker pivoted, grabbed him by the vest, and slammed him into the wall hard enough to rattle the scaffolding. Aiden blinked in stunned silence, his pulse racing. Why did it always have to be him? Another pulse of energy rattled the air, and without warning, the ceiling above them cracked. Debris rained down. Ryker's hand shot out, grabbing Aiden's arm just as a psychic blast exploded from behind. They were hurled against the far wall. Hard. The breath knocked from Aiden's lungs as he hit the ground, Ryker half collapsing on top of him. And then, the world changed. A warm, tingling sensation bloomed across Aiden's chest, spreading outward like a second heartbeat. His breath caught as his skin buzzed with strange heat. Ryker groaned, pushing himself up on one elbow. You okay? Aiden couldn't speak. His fingers curled into Ryker's jacket as something invisible and impossible thrummed between them. An invisible thread pulled tight between their cores. His pupils widened. No. No, no, no. Ryker frowned. What? Aiden shoved at his chest. Get off me. Ryker rolled away, still breathing hard. You're welcome, by the way. Aiden scrambled to his feet, eyes wide with disbelief. You idiot. Do you have any idea what just happened? Ryker stood slowly, brushing dust off his arms. I saved your life. Again. You're welcome, again. But Aiden was already backing away, hand pressed over his heart. His breathing was ragged. We triggered a bond. Ryker froze. What? Temporary psychic resonance. Aiden's voice rose. The blast, the physical contact, it aligned our mental frequencies. We're bonded. Ryker stared at him like he'd just announced they were getting married. You're kidding. Do I look like I'm kidding? Aiden snapped, shoving his hands through his hair. Oh, this is just perfect. Of all people, you... Ryker's brow creased. Hey, I didn't plan this. You're the one who ran off without backup. And you're the one who charged in like a bull on fire. Their shouting echoed in the empty warehouse. Then the silence fell. They stood several feet apart, both panting, both rattled. The bond between them pulsed again. Light, then heat, then tension. Aiden pressed 2 fingers to his temple and groaned. This is a disaster. Ryker exhaled. So what now? Back at HQ, protocol was clear. Any unintentional bond meant quarantine. Aiden sat on the edge of the narrow cot in the observation room, arms folded tightly across his chest. The room was small, sterile. 1 cot, 1 chair, 1 giant pane of reinforced glass. Ryker leaned against the wall on the opposite side, arms crossed, looking bored. But Aiden could feel it. The flickers of emotion bleeding through the bond, impatience, irritation, confusion. And something else. Heat. Aiden clenched his fists. Stop it. Ryker blinked. Stop what? You're thinking about things. Ryker smirked. What, you can read my mind now? No, Aiden said quickly, standing. But I can feel it. Through the bond. You're thinking about, he waved a hand vaguely me. Us. That moment. Ryker straightened, eyes gleaming with mischief. Can you blame me? You were practically purring under me back there. Aiden flushed scarlet. I was unconscious. Still happened. Aiden stalked toward the far wall, trying to breathe through his anger and the ache in his chest that had nothing to do with the mission. The bond crackled again. He could feel Ryker's gaze on him. Hot. Heavy. Curious. He spun around. Just, stop feeling so loud. Ryker raised both eyebrows. You think I'm doing this on purpose? I think you're a walking disaster, Aiden muttered. And I think I'm cursed. Ryker sighed and slid down the wall to sit cross-legged on the floor. Look, I didn't ask for this either. But we're stuck, so how about we stop yelling and figure out how to undo it? Aiden stared at him for a long beat. Then he sat slowly across the room from him. The bond between them shimmered, softening like a low ember instead of wildfire. Still dangerous. Still warm. Still there. Chapter 3, Unraveling Control. Central Command's quarantine wing was dead silent except for the soft hum of the air vents. It smelled faintly of antiseptic like every other sterile corner of the facility. Aiden Cross sat cross-legged on the narrow cot, eyes squeezed shut, breath steady as he repeated the mantra under his breath. Sever the bond. Release the link. Purge the resonance. Ryker Voss groaned from across the room. If you say that one more time, I'm gonna start chanting myself. Aiden cracked open one eye. Meditation is scientifically proven to suppress psychic resonance. Ryker lay sprawled on the floor, arms pillowed behind his head, staring at the ceiling like it had personally offended him. Pretty sure my brain's gonna melt before that works. Aiden threw up his hands. You could at least try. I am trying, Ryker shot back. Trying not to go nuts while you chant like a monk on repeat. Aiden scowled and turned away, folding his arms tightly. The bond between them pulsed softly in the silence, a steady thrum beneath his skin. It was maddening, like a second heartbeat in his chest that wasn't entirely his own. Ryker's voice dropped lower. Hey! Aiden refused to look at him. Cross. What? Aiden finally snapped. Ryker pushed himself upright, folding his long legs underneath him. His eyes were dark, searching. Why do you hate me so much? Aiden blinked. I don't hate you. Could have fooled me. Aiden sighed. He dropped his eyes to his lap, fingers twisting the hem of his sleeve. You're reckless. You don't think before you act. You're loud. Messy. He trailed off. Ryker tilted his head. I what? Aiden swallowed hard. You make me feel things I don't want to feel. Ryker froze, all traces of humor vanishing from his face. Aiden shot to his feet, suddenly unable to sit still. This is exactly why I didn't want to bond. I like control. I like boundaries. I can't have some Sentinel stomping through my brain like a bull in a glass shop. Ryker stood too, towering over him. So that's what this is about? You're scared because you can't keep me out. Aiden's cheeks flushed pink. Of course I'm scared. You're practically shouting your feelings at me every 5 seconds. Ryker blinked. What feelings? Aiden whirled on him, eyes blazing. You're thinking about touching me. About kissing me. He broke off, breath shuddering. Ryker stared at him for a long, loaded second. Then he stepped closer, his voice dropping to a soft rumble. And you're thinking about kissing me back. Aiden's lips parted, words failing him. Ryker's hand rose, fingertips brushing the curve of Aiden's jaw. The touch sent a shockwave through Aiden's body, warmth, need, something dangerously close to surrender. Stop it, Aiden whispered, voice trembling. Can't. Ryker's voice was husky. Not when you're looking at me like that. Aiden tried to back away, but the cot pressed against his knees. He stumbled, and Ryker caught his arms, steadying him. Their faces were inches apart, breaths mingling. Ryker's eyes dropped to Aiden's lips. You feel it too, don't you? Aiden squeezed his eyes shut, but his voice came out soft and fractured. I can't do this. I can't. Ryker's fingers slid down to Aiden's wrists, gripping gently. Tell me to stop and I'll stop. Aiden's pulse thundered in his ears. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, a psychic flare rippled between them, a shimmering current of heat that pulsed through their bond like a live wire. Aiden gasped, swaying closer. For a moment, he hovered on the edge, torn between fear and desire. Then he wrenched himself free, stumbling backward until his spine hit the wall. Stay away from me, he rasped. Ryker blinked, chest rising and falling, his expression shuddered. Aiden turned away, arms wrapped around himself as though he could somehow shield his racing heart. I need control. I need space. Ryker exhaled heavily. Fine. Space. Got it. He retreated to the far side of the room, sinking down into the chair, scrubbing a hand over his face. But even across the room, Aiden could still feel him, every flicker of emotion, every surge of frustrated longing, like echoes reverberating in his own chest. The bond pulsed softly between them, refusing to be silenced. And Aiden squeezed his eyes shut, silently praying that severing it would be as simple as a mantra. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't be. Not when every part of him already felt tangled up in Ryker Voss. Chapter 4, Heatwave. Storm clouds gathered over the city, rolling in like dark waves under the neon glow. The temperature dropped, the air growing sharp and electric as if the sky itself held its breath. Inside Central Command, the hallways were chaos. Sirens wailed. Lights flickered. Aiden Cross pressed a hand to his temple, staggering as a psychic scream rippled through the building. Aiden. He barely registered Ryker's voice before the world tilted. His knees buckled. He dropped to the polished floor, breath coming in ragged gasps as pain lanced through his skull. A psychic storm, he realized dimly. A spike in ambient energy so intense it felt like being flayed from the inside out. All around them, guides were collapsing, writhing as their psychic fields overloaded. Ryker appeared in Aiden's blurred vision, grabbing his shoulders. Aiden! Aiden! Look at me! Aiden tried to focus. Sparks of light exploded behind his eyes. He clutched Ryker's arms, fingers digging into his sleeves. Can't, he gasped. Too loud, everything's too loud. Ryker's jaw tightened. Then shut it out. Take my focus. I'll shield you. Aiden shook his head violently. I can't. Ryker's hands slid up to cradle his face. His thumbs pressed gently under Aiden's eyes, forcing him to look up. Hey, listen to me. You're the strongest damn guide in this city. Take my senses. Filter it through me. I'll hurt you. I can handle it. Trust me. For a split second, Aiden hesitated. Then, trembling, he reached into their bond and poured himself into Ryker, his panic, his confusion, the psychic static threatening to tear him apart. Ryker flinched, grunting softly, but his arms tightened around Aiden like a vice. A sudden, blessed silence fell over Aiden's mind. It was still there, the storm, the chaos, but distant, muffled as if heard through thick glass. Ryker's psychic presence was a solid wall between Aiden and the screaming city. Aiden's entire body sagged in relief. He slumped forward, pressing his forehead to Ryker's chest. His breath came in shaky bursts, each one filling his lungs with the scent of leather and warm skin. Ryker exhaled slowly, one hand stroking up and down his back. Good. That's it. Just breathe. I can't believe. Aiden's voice cracked. I can't believe you did that for me. Ryker tilted his head, his voice low. Of course I did. You're mine to protect. Aiden stiffened. I'm not yours. Could have fooled me, Ryker murmured, brushing his lips lightly against Aiden's temple. A spark of heat shot down Aiden's spine. He shivered violently, pressing closer instead of pulling away. Ryker cupped his jaw, tilting his face up. Their eyes locked, a storm of emotion swirling between them. You keep saying you don't want this, Ryker said softly, but you keep ending up in my arms. That's coincidence, Aiden breathed. Ryker's thumb traced the edge of his bottom lip. Feels a lot like fate to me. Aiden's lips parted, unable to find words. Another tremor rolled through the building. Ryker instinctively pulled him tighter, wrapping Aiden fully against his chest. For one breathless moment, Aiden let himself melt into the heat of Ryker's body, inhaling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. He hated how safe it felt, how right it felt, but his thoughts were shattered by the surge of residual psychic energy. The floor rattled under their feet. Ryker swept Aiden off the ground, carrying him like he weighed nothing, and strode toward the stairwell. Put me down, Aiden protested weakly, though his arms curled around Ryker's shoulders. Not a chance, Ryker growled. You're barely conscious. Aiden gave a soft groan and buried his face in Ryker's neck, too exhausted to keep fighting. Ryker carried him into the emergency bunker 2 floors below. The door slammed shut behind them, sealing off the worst of the psychic storm outside. Ryker lowered Aiden gently onto a narrow bench, then crouched in front of him, gripping his knees. Talk to me. How bad is it? Aiden blinked blearily, trying to focus. It's manageable. Thanks to you. Ryker brushed damp hair off his forehead. That's what I'm here for. Aiden's throat worked. You shouldn't have taken that on. It could have damaged your neural pathways. I'd rather risk a headache than watch you burn yourself out. Ryker leaned closer. Stop pretending you don't know what we are. Aiden swallowed hard. And what's that? Ryker's voice dropped. Bonded. Aiden's pulse stuttered as Ryker's breath ghosted over his lips. I'm not ready for this, Aiden whispered. Ryker's eyes searched his. Neither am I. Doesn't change how I feel. Aiden opened his mouth, to argue, to deny. but Ryker's thumb swept across his lower lip, silencing him. For a moment, the only sound was the distant echo of the storm and the frantic rhythm of two hearts beating in perfect sync. Then Ryker pressed forward and laid a gentle, lingering kiss on Aiden's lips. Aiden froze, then leaned into it, trembling. The contact sent a wave of heat through the bond, warm and sweet and terrifying. When Ryker pulled back, Aiden stared at him, breathing hard. Ryker whispered, "I'm not letting you go, Cross, so figure it out." Aiden swallowed, staring at him with wide, conflicted eyes. And though he wanted to shove Ryker away, he couldn't help the way his fingers clung to the edges of Ryker's jacket, holding on for dear life. Chapter 5, Lines Blurred. A week passed. The psychic storm faded, leaving behind a fragile stillness in Central Command like the hush after a hurricane. Aiden Cross moved through the hallways with precise, clipped steps as if each footfall could keep his thoughts and his traitorous heart in check. He held his chin high, dark hair falling in sleek waves around his pale face, refusing to look at anyone for too long lest they see the turmoil boiling beneath the surface. He couldn't stop thinking about the way Ryker Voss's mouth had felt on his, or the way his mind had quieted when Ryker had shielded him during the storm. He hated that he kept replaying it, over and over. Unfortunately, there was no time to brood. The council had declared that all active Sentinel Guide pairs needed to retrain in sync exercises following the psychic storm. And that meant drills. The combat gym smelled of sweat, rubber mats, and ozone from the residual psychic charges lingering in the air. Aiden stood in the center of the mat, dressed in sleek black workout clothes. His lean muscles were tense, shoulders stiff as he watched Ryker approach from the sidelines. Ryker wore a loose black t-shirt and combat pants. His hair was slightly damp, curling at the ends. He radiated restless energy, pacing like a predator waiting to pounce. "Don't look so thrilled," Aiden muttered as Ryker joined him on the mat. Ryker smirked. "Come on. We're finally getting along." "Sort of." Aiden glared. "We are not getting along." Ryker tilted his head. "That's not what your brain says every time we touch." Aiden's face flamed scarlet. "Shut up." Ryker stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Admit it. You like it when I'm close." Aiden shoved a palm against his chest. "Try me, Voss." Ryker chuckled, catching his wrist. "That an invitation?" "Enough." Captain Liang barked from the sidelines. "Positions." Ryker leaned in and murmured, "Can't wait." Aiden barely swallowed a curse as they fell into their stances. "Begin." Liang shouted. Ryker lunged first, fast as lightning. Aiden pivoted, his body reacting before his brain could catch up, sliding under Ryker's arm to avoid a sweeping kick. "Nice," Ryker panted. Who knew the Ice Prince could move? Aiden shot him a glare. "Keep talking." He ducked Ryker's next strike, planting his foot and sending a surge of psychic energy through the floor. Ryker staggered, off balance. Aiden seized the opening, grabbing Ryker's arm and twisting him into a lock. For a second, Ryker froze, lips parted in surprise. Then a grin spread over his face. "Careful, Cross. You keep manhandling me like that, I might start thinking you're into me." Aiden tightened his grip, pressing Ryker's arm behind his back. "I'd rather drown." "Yeah?" Ryker rasped. "Because your bond is screaming otherwise." Aiden shoved him away. Ryker barely caught himself, flipping backward and landing in a crouch. He lunged again, tackling Aiden. They went down hard, rolling across the mat in a tangle of limbs. Ryker ended up on top, straddling Aiden's hips, pinning his wrists to the floor. Aiden's chest heaved as he glared up at him. "Get off." Ryker didn't move. His grip tightened around Aiden's wrists, his gaze dropping to Aiden's parted lips. "Say you don't want me to kiss you," Ryker murmured. Aiden swallowed. His body felt like it was humming, every nerve alight. I don't." But Ryker leaned closer, their noses brushing, his breath warm against Aiden's mouth. "Liar," he whispered. Aiden arched upward without meaning to, a soft gasp escaping his throat. Ryker's lips hovered just above his. "Say it." Aiden's eyes fluttered shut. "Ryker." Ryker bent lower, lips grazing the corner of Aiden's mouth. A shudder tore through Aiden's body, heat pooling low in his belly. A soft psychic pulse rippled between them, sweet, molten. "Enough." Liang barked again. Ryker jerked back like he'd been slapped. He released Aiden's wrists, panting. Aiden lay there, breathless, staring up at the ceiling as his pulse thundered in his ears. Liang stormed over, glaring at them both. "This is combat training, not a mating ritual." Ryker scratched the back of his head sheepish. Sorry, Captain? Aiden scrambled to his feet, brushing imaginary dust off his clothes. It won't happen again. Liang snorted. That's what you said last time. He jabbed a finger at Ryker. Stop provoking him. And you, he jabbed another finger at Aiden. Stop falling for it. Aiden flushed. I'm not falling for anything. Dismissed. Liang barked. Ryker grinned as Aiden tried to storm off. Hey, Cross. Aiden whirled around. What? Ryker's smile softened. You look good when you're flustered. Aiden stared at him, mouth opening and closing, before he finally spun and stalked away. Later, Aiden stood under the scalding shower in the locker room, water cascading over his hair and shoulders. He pressed his palms to the tile, trying to wash away the lingering heat from Ryker's hands. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't forget the look in Ryker's eyes. Or the way, for a split second on the mat, he'd wanted Ryker to kiss him. And that terrified him more than any psychic storm ever could. Chapter 6, Cracks in the Wall. Night cloaked the city in a velvet hush, neon lights flickering like distant stars. Central Command had quieted, the earlier chaos ebbing into routine once more. Aiden Cross sat alone in the dim glow of a monitor, the light casting sharp shadows across his high cheekbones. His fingers flew across the touchscreen, data streams rolling like rain-down glass. And yet he hadn't absorbed a single line in the past half hour. He kept seeing Ryker's eyes, dark and burning, staring down at him on the mat. The memory sent an unwanted flutter through his stomach, making him clench his jaw until it ached. The door to the operations center slid open behind him. He didn't have to look up to know who it was. Ryker's presence washed over him like a wave, heat, spice, leather, and that faint, grounding sense of psychic solidity that made Aiden want to both flee and lean closer. Still working. Ryker's voice was soft, wary. Aiden didn't turn around. Go away. Ryker ignored that entirely, moving closer until he loomed over Aiden's shoulder. Everyone else went home hours ago. You should sleep. I'm busy. Ryker leaned in, bracing his hands on the console on either side of Aiden. His breath stirred the hair by Aiden's ear. No, you're hiding. Aiden stiffened. Excuse me. You're running from this. Ryker's voice dropped to a low rumble. From us. Aiden pushed back from the console so abruptly that his chair rolled several feet away. He jumped to his feet, glaring. There's no us. Ryker stepped forward, closing the distance again. Then why does your bond spike every time I touch you? Aiden's lips parted, chest heaving. Because you're infuriating. Ryker tilted his head. And because you want me. Aiden faltered, words catching in his throat. Ryker's eyes softened. He reached out and gently brushed Aiden's temple with his fingertips. The psychic contact was like flipping a switch. Aiden gasped as a flood of Ryker's feelings poured through him, heat, longing, protectiveness, and a deep, aching tenderness that nearly knocked him off his feet. He staggered backward, slamming a hand against the console. Stop it. Ryker dropped his hand. I'm not doing it on purpose. The bond. It's not going away, Aiden. Aiden squeezed his eyes shut. I can't live like this. I need boundaries. I need to know where I end and where you begin. Ryker stepped closer, voice rough. I don't want to lose myself either. But that's not what's happening. Aiden opened his eyes, and the anguish in them punched Ryker square in the chest. I've spent my entire life keeping control. You make me feel things I can't box up. You tear open every wall I've built. Ryker swallowed, his voice hushed. Is that really so bad? Aiden blinked rapidly, a few tears escaping before he could stop them. It is when I'm terrified of what I'll find underneath. Ryker lifted a hand again, hesitant as if unsure whether Aiden would let him touch him. Finally, he cupped Aiden's cheek, thumb brushing away a tear. Aiden flinched but didn't pull away. Ryker's voice dropped to a whisper. Let me in, just a little. You don't have to hold everything alone. Aiden tried to speak, but his voice came out a broken croak. I don't know how. Ryker leaned forward, pressing their foreheads together. Then let me show you. Aiden shivered. His lips parted as another surge of warmth flooded the bond, threading through his chest, sweet and terrifying. Then, without warning, Ryker tilted his head and kissed him. Softly. Aiden froze, hands hovering uselessly in the space between them. But Ryker didn't press harder. He kept it gentle, a question, not a demand. Slowly, Aiden's hands fisted in Ryker's shirt. He kissed him back, trembling. Their bond pulsed like a living thing, threads of light weaving around them in the psychic plane. Ryker pulled away only when Aiden finally broke for air, lips swollen, eyes wide and glassy. Ryker smiled faintly. See? You're not so alone. Aiden blinked at him, panting softly. You're going to be the death of me. Ryker grinned. Worth it. Aiden gave a soft, watery laugh, shaking his head. But this time, he didn't step away when Ryker wrapped an arm around his waist, holding him close. And for the first time in days, Aiden allowed himself to lean against Ryker's chest, letting the quiet warmth sink into his bones. Chapter 7, Underneath the Static. The world outside their bond kept spinning, missions, council reports, surveillance data flooding in like tides. But for Aiden and Ryker, something had changed. They didn't talk about the kiss. Not with words. But the way Ryker's hand now brushed Aiden's lower back as they walked through hallways, the way Aiden's gaze lingered half a second longer across Ryker's face during briefings, the way their bond had settled into a quiet, simmering warmth. Those things spoke louder than dialogue ever could. They were no longer enemies. Not quite lovers. Something delicate hung in between. Their next mission dropped without warning. A rogue psychic had hijacked a civilian freight skimmer and was broadcasting volatile emotional waves through the grid, threatening to cause mass panic in the lower sectors. Aiden adjusted the straps of his field gear, his tablet blinking red in his hand. He's destabilizing. The psychic echoes are intensifying by the hour. Then we better move, Ryker muttered, checking his weapons. Aiden glanced at him. You remember the protocol if he goes feral? Ryker met his gaze steadily. I'm not letting him take you down with him. No matter what. The air between them crackled, not with hostility, but with the weight of what they weren't saying. Aiden looked away, throat tight. Let's just finish the job. They found the rogue on the top level of a half-collapsed tower, standing barefoot on a ledge, arms outstretched like he was trying to embrace the storm. His face was pale, eyes glowing with psionic overload. You shouldn't have come, he whispered, wind howling through his hair. Aiden stepped forward slowly, hands raised. My name is Aiden Cross. I'm a guide. You're not alone. We can help stabilize your field. The rogue laughed, a sound brittle and broken. You're too late. I've already merged. Ryker's hand went instinctively to his sidearm. But Aiden held up a hand. Wait. He extended his psychic field carefully, threading through the chaos toward the rogue's fractured mind. I know what it feels like to be overwhelmed, Aiden said softly. To lose yourself in the static. The rogue's lips trembled. His psychic energy surged dangerously like a dam about to burst. Aiden took one more step. But you don't have to carry it alone. The rogue's power flared and Aiden collapsed to one knee, gasping. Ryker caught him instantly, gripping his arm. You okay? Aiden nodded weakly, sweat beading at his temple. He's too far gone. His psychic threads are disintegrating. We have to anchor him. Together. Ryker didn't hesitate. He wrapped an arm around Aiden's waist, grounding them both. Do it. Aiden reached through their bond, pulling Ryker's strength into his own focus and channeled it forward like light through a prism. The rogue cried out as their stabilizing resonance hit him. For a moment it worked. But then, a flash. A burst of white. And the tower cracked. Concrete trembled under their feet. The ledge gave way beneath the rogue. And Ryker launched forward, grabbing the man's arm just in time. I've got you. The rogue dangled off the side, screaming. But Ryker was losing his grip. Aiden dropped beside them, wrapping both arms around Ryker's torso, anchoring him with everything he had. Don't you dare let go, Aiden gritted out. Ryker growled, muscles straining. Wasn't planning on it. Together, they pulled. And finally, the rogue crashed onto the ledge, sobbing in Ryker's arms. Later, after the med team arrived and the rogue was secured, Aiden and Ryker sat side by side on the steps of the tower, breathless. The sun was beginning to rise. Aiden rubbed his temple. He could have taken out half the sector. But we stopped it. Ryker gave a tired smile. Teamwork, huh? Aiden glanced over. You almost went over with him. Ryker shrugged. I had backup. Aiden was quiet for a moment. You keep doing that. Doing what? Risking everything for people who won't even remember your name. Ryker's voice turned quiet. I don't need them to remember me. I just need you to. Aiden turned to him, startled. Ryker met his gaze, serious now. I've spent a lot of years being the guy who runs in fists first and never thinks twice. But since we bonded, his voice caught. It's not just about adrenaline anymore. It's about you. Every time I move, I'm thinking about what it does to you. What it means to us. Aiden looked at him, truly looked at him for the first time without all the armor, without the grudge. And what he saw left him breathless. Not just a reckless sentinel, but a man trying to be better. For him. Without thinking, Aiden reached out and brushed his knuckles along Ryker's jaw. I do remember you, he said quietly. Even when I don't want to. Ryker leaned in, close enough that their noses brushed. Then don't forget this. He kissed him, slow this time, Reverend. And Aiden let himself fall forward, one hand on Ryker's chest, feeling the thunderous beat of his heart. Their bond pulsed bright and gold in the back of Aiden's mind, not as a prison, but as a promise. Chapter 8 Heat of the Moment. Central Command lay hushed in the hours before dawn. The corridors washed in low blue light. Aiden Cross moved like a ghost through the empty halls, hands buried in his pockets, jaw tight. He'd tried meditation. He'd tried work. He'd tried to convince himself that everything was still under control. None of it worked, because every time he closed his eyes, he felt Ryker's lips on his. He turned a corner and froze. Ryker Voss leaned against the wall ahead, arms folded, eyes half hidden under tousled hair. I was just coming to find you, Ryker said quietly. Aiden swallowed. Why? Because I can't sleep either. Ryker pushed away from the wall and came closer. His boots were nearly silent on the polished floor. Don't, Aiden murmured, holding up a hand. Ryker, I can't. But Ryker kept walking until Aiden's back hit the wall. He braced his hands on either side of Aiden's head, caging him in. You keep saying you can't. But you're still here. Aiden's throat worked. I'm trying to protect us both. This bond. It's dangerous. Ryker bent closer, voice low. So is breathing. Doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. Ryker. Ryker leaned in and pressed his lips to Aiden's. This kiss was nothing like the careful, fleeting ones before. It was heat and hunger and months of tension crashing into a single, blazing spark. Aiden's breath hitched. For a split second, he tried to shove Ryker away, but his fingers fisted in Ryker's shirt instead, dragging him closer. Ryker groaned into his mouth, the sound low and rough. One of his hands slid into Aiden's hair, tilting his head for a better angle. Psychic heat flared between them, shimmering in brilliant gold. When they finally pulled apart, Aiden was gasping. His skin burned everywhere Ryker had touched him. I'm losing control, Aiden rasped. Then let me help you, Ryker said. Aiden squeezed his eyes shut, but the bond wouldn't be silenced. It thrummed inside him, wild and alive, echoing with Ryker's fierce devotion. I can feel everything you're feeling, Aiden whispered. It's too much. Ryker's forehead pressed to his. Then feel it. Stop fighting me. Aiden opened his eyes, and the raw honesty in Ryker's expression undid him. He surged forward, capturing Ryker's mouth again. Ryker let out a guttural sound and backed Aiden into the wall, kissing him deeper. His hands slipped under Aiden's shirt, fingertips tracing the tense lines of muscle along his ribs. Aiden broke the kiss with a shudder. We can't. Not here. Then tell me where. Ryker's voice was a growl. Aiden hesitated. Then he grabbed Ryker's wrist and pulled him down the hallway, moving fast. They stumbled into the small meditation chamber near the east wing. The door hissed shut behind them. Aiden barely got a word out before Ryker pinned him against the wall again. Their lips crashed together, teeth clashing, breath hot and ragged. Ryker's hands roamed under Aiden's shirt, palming the warm skin of his lower back. Aiden gasped, arching into the touch, fingers scrabbling at Ryker's shoulders. Tell me to stop, Ryker growled against his lips. Aiden moaned softly. Don't you dare. Ryker grinned, a wild, wicked curve of his mouth, and kissed him again, slower this time, devouring him inch by inch. Aiden's knees buckled. Ryker caught him easily, lifting him slightly off the ground. Ryker, Aiden whispered, clutching his hair. I'm scared. Ryker paused, pressing gentle kisses along Aiden's jaw. Of what? Of how much I want this. Ryker met his eyes, panting. Me too. Aiden laughed, a choked, trembling sound as he clung tighter. Don't stop. Ryker kissed him again, and the bond between them exploded into brilliant psychic light. It poured through every nerve in Aiden's body, drowning out the fear, filling him instead with warmth and a devastating certainty. He didn't want to fight this anymore. Later, they sat together on the meditation room floor, backs resting against the wall. Ryker's arm draped lazily around Aiden's shoulders, fingers stroking circles over his skin. Aiden stared at the ceiling, chest still heaving slightly. I don't know what this means, he admitted. For our work. For everything. Ryker squeezed his shoulder. It means we're figuring it out. Together. Aiden tilted his head, studying him with tired, soft eyes. You're insufferable. Ryker smirked. And you're a stubborn control freak. Aiden rolled his eyes and then, to Ryker's delight, leaned over and kissed him one more time. Chapter 9, Fault Lines. Morning sunlight slanted through the windows of the guide archives, catching motes of dust floating like golden stars. Aiden Cross stood at one of the long data tables, tablet in hand, scanning rapidly through streams of encrypted logs. But his mind wasn't on the text. He kept remembering the weight of Ryker's body pressed to his, the way their bond had pulsed bright as a supernova. He squeezed his eyes shut, feeling heat flood his face. "Don't do that," a voice drawled behind him. "It's too early for you to be that cute." Aiden spun around so fast he nearly knocked over a chair. "Ryker." Ryker leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, hair still tousled from sleep. His eyes softened. "You ran off this morning." "I had work," Aiden said stiffly. Ryker stalked closer. "That's not why you left." Aiden backed up until the edge of the table hit his hips. "I needed to think." Ryker stopped inches away. And Aiden hesitated. His voice dropped. "I'm not sure how we keep doing this. Our bond is destabilizing every time we get close." Ryker tilted his head. "Feels pretty stable to me." "That's because you like chaos." Aiden snapped, cheeks flaming. Ryker grinned. "You like it too." Aiden opened his mouth, to deny it, to yell. But the console beside them suddenly pinged. He glanced at it and frowned. "That's a level 4 access file," he murmured. "Why would that be showing up here?" Ryker squinted at the screen. "What's it say?" Aiden scrolled quickly. His fingers stilled. Then he went deadly pale. Ryker watched the color drain from Aiden's face. He stepped closer, dropping his voice. "Talk to me." Aiden didn't look up. "These are records from the council. Experiments. They've been monitoring certain bonds, testing how far they can push a guide before they burn out." Ryker's chest tightened. "Wait, are you saying they've been deliberately pushing bonds to the breaking point?" Aiden's eyes glistened. "Not just random bonds. Ones like ours. High-intensity Sentinel guide pairings. They think people like us could be weaponized for psychic warfare." Ryker let out a low curse. "That's why they kept throwing us into dangerous missions. Why they kept us bonded after the incident." Aiden nodded miserably. "We were never supposed to be temporary. We're part of a controlled test." Ryker exhaled slowly, anger boiling in his chest. "They used you. They used us." Aiden whispered. Ryker reached out, gripping Aiden's shoulders. "Hey, look at me." Aiden's gaze flickered up, eyes shining. Ryker's voice turned fierce. "I don't care what the council wants. We decide what this bond means. Not them." Aiden shook his head. "You don't understand. If we stay bonded, they'll keep pushing us. Until one of us breaks." Ryker leaned in, foreheads touching. "Then we break their plans instead." Aiden let out a shuddering breath. "You make it sound so easy." "It's not. But I'm not losing you. Not to them. Not to anyone." Aiden's lips trembled. "Ryker, if they find out we know this, then they'll have to deal with both of us." Ryker's voice was steel. "And trust me, I'm scarier than the council." Aiden gave a weak laugh, despite the tears gathering in his eyes. Ryker cupped his face. "Hey, no more running. Not from me. Not from this." Aiden blinked rapidly. "But you deserve a normal partner. Someone who doesn't come with this kind of it. Don't you dare finish that sentence." Ryker's tone was harsh, but his thumbs stroked Aiden's cheekbones gently. "I don't want normal. I want you." Aiden let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a laugh. "You're going to ruin my life." Ryker kissed his forehead. "Good. Yours was too boring anyway." Aiden's arms slid around Ryker's waist. "I'm scared." Ryker held him tighter. "So am I. But we'll handle this together. Like we always do." For a long moment, they stood like that, pressed close in the quiet of the archives, the soft hum of data consoles around them. But Aiden knew their fragile bubble was about to shatter. Because secrets like the ones they just uncovered didn't stay hidden forever. And the council wouldn't tolerate loose ends. Chapter 10, Resonance. By midnight, Central Command was locked down. Silent alarms pulsed red through the corridors. Uniformed sentinels scrambled to secure data vaults. Doors hissed shut, magnetic locks engaging with ominous thuds. Aiden and Ryker stood in the shadows of the lower corridor, close enough that Aiden could feel the heat radiating off Ryker's body. They know, Aiden whispered. The council knows we accessed those files. Ryker's eyes glittered. Let them come. Aiden glared at him. This isn't a bar fight, Ryker. This is the council. They could wipe our records. Classify us as unstable. Disappear us. Ryker's jaw tightened. Not happening. A metallic clang echoed down the hall. Footsteps. Voices. Aiden flinched. That's a tactical team. Ryker wrapped an arm around him, voice low. We can fight. Or we can run. But we do it together. Aiden sucked in a shaking breath. If we run, we'll be hunted. Ryker tipped his forehead against Aiden's. I'd rather be hunted with you than safe without you. Aiden blinked rapidly, throat burning. He wanted to scream at Ryker for being reckless. For dragging him into this. But the truth was, he wanted Ryker more than he'd ever wanted anything. Even freedom. Step away from the guide. Captain Liang's voice thundered from the far end of the corridor. A team of armored sentinels advanced, weapons raised. Ryker stepped in front of Aiden, shielding him with his body. Not happening, Captain. Liang's expression was grim. You've both been compromised. Hand over the guide and we'll handle this cleanly. Aiden's heart twisted. Liang, don't do this. Liang's eyes flicked to Aiden. For a moment, regret softened his features. This isn't personal, Cross. The council gave the order. Ryker bared his teeth. Yeah? Well, the council can go to hell. Liang gestured and his sentinels surged forward. Ryker lunged to meet them. The corridor erupted into chaos. Blinding flashes of psychic energy. Fists colliding. Boots pounding on metal floors. Aiden backed away, trembling. The psychic pressure was intense. Like standing in the center of a tornado. Liang closed in, hand crackling with controlled psychic force. Aiden, don't make me hurt you. Aiden's eyes hardened. Don't underestimate me, Captain. He thrust out his hand, and a wave of raw psychic power blasted Liang off his feet. Ryker blinked mid-fight, a slow grin spreading over his face. Remind me never to piss you off. Aiden panted, eyes shining like silver stars. Shut up and help me. Together, they moved in perfect synchrony. Ryker's physical strikes flowed seamlessly with Aiden's psychic pulses. The bond between them shone like a golden ribbon, amplifying every move. Liang staggered back, glaring. You're going to tear the city apart. Ryker grabbed Aiden's hand. Not if we leave first. Aiden hesitated. Ryker, if we run. Ryker pulled him closer. We'll find somewhere new. Start over. I don't care where. As long as it's with you. Aiden stared at him, chest heaving. Then he whispered, Okay. They crashed through a side door, racing down the emergency exit stairs. Alarms screamed above them. Aiden's pulse thundered in his ears, but Ryker's hand was warm and steady in his. They burst out into the rain-slick streets below. Neon lights shimmered on wet pavement. The storm clouds overhead rolled with violet lightning. Ryker spun Aiden into a narrow alley, pressing him against the brick wall. You sure about this? Ryker murmured, eyes searching his. Aiden stared up at him, rain dripping off his hair. I'm terrified. Ryker's thumb brushed his cheek. So am I. But I'm done running from us, Aiden whispered. Ryker's breath caught. Say it again. I'm done running. A slow smile curved Ryker's lips. Then come here. He kissed Aiden fiercely. Rain falling around them, neon lights blazing like fireworks. Their bond flared brilliant gold, threads of psychic energy wrapping around them, merging their minds into a single, burning star. When they finally pulled apart, Aiden rested his forehead against Ryker's. So, what now? He asked, voice trembling. Ryker smirked. Now we find a new life. Together. Maybe somewhere with fewer council assassins. Aiden laughed, a wild, breathless sound. You're impossible. Ryker grinned. And you love it. Aiden rolled his eyes. Unfortunately, yeah. I do. Ryker kissed him again, softer this time. Above them, lightning split the sky. And though sirens still wailed in the distance, Aiden realized, for the first time, he wasn't afraid of what came next. Because whatever happened, he and Ryker would face it side by side.